Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mark. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. Don't mind the drywall spots, and I think if you know where I'm sitting, if you've watched this live stuff, pictures are gone. There's a reason for that. We were going to put the house on the market June 25th, but there was a ton of interest in it, and it sold in less than 24 hours, and in fact, we had an inspection this morning. It's been chaos around here. So there's two things I want to talk about. I had a couple questions from a subscriber, Sawyer Worrell, that I want to address. One of them being that he wants to know where to put a bunch of rods. I'll show you how I do it. People do it all kinds of different ways. It's just the way I do it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the dimensions of the casting deck. It's very simple. And I got some clips from the video I made about it before, and I'll kind of talk through the clips live. Well, not really live. I'm not live to you guys. I'm live right now. First things first. The big thing, Sunday night's number 6 giveaway. We're going to have a ton of prizes again. It's going to be a good time. If you're interested, join us. In order to enter giveaway number 6, you need to like this video and comment, as well as hit that subscribe button. And there's a little bell at the top right of your screen. Now, if you hit that bell, all that does is notify you when a video comes out from me. So if you don't want that, I understand. It'll definitely let you know when those live drawings are to give you an opportunity to win something cool. All right. Let's get into the video. Let's talk about the casting deck. Let's talk about how I store my rods. Okay, guys, so you can see in this clip, I basically am laying it out. What I did was I wanted to create a level surface to build from. Now, if you just put your legs straight down, you risk not being level if that's your base. So the most important thing is to make a base that you feel as level as humanly possible. And then I added my legs going up to support the deck itself. All it is doing is sitting in there, and I'm kind of messing with how I want things to go. All of the bracing, the vertical 2x4s that you see, are 13 inches long. And there's a reason for that. It's 13 3/4 inches from your walking area to the top of the original casting deck. So 13-inch 2x4 vertically with a 3/4 piece of plywood on top of it gives you your 13 3/4. Now you got to remember, wood's a little smaller than it's sold as. So once you put the carpet on it, you'll achieve that height, and that gives you that flush surface to surface no matter where you go. If you're walking over onto the live well or the casting deck, it's all the same. There's no variation. All right, so if you guys notice the 2x4 on the rear of the casting deck on the bottom there, that I removed. That was just to basically give me square. And I removed that, and you'll see it in the other videos how that's not there. Okay. Now, one other thing I want to mention is I totally corked off that door. And I'm not interested in building trap doors in this thing. To me, it's not worth it. It's got plenty of storage in here. Actually, twice as much as what's in that box. So I'm able to put everything that was in that box underneath the step area side of that thing. And then the other side, I take a duffel bag every time I go that has rain gear, toilet paper, and, some other weird supplies, first aid kit, stuff like that you might really need. That stuff's nicely in there and just disappears. But like I said, the 2x4, I'm not out there right now. My garage is a disaster due to this moving and everything. But basically, you're just going to measure over from the console all the way across. Now, in a lot of people's cases, they wanted to keep the 4th rod spot open on the bottom, which I didn't really care about. So that 2x4 that extends all the way outboard, you're going to want to cut that off just short of that 2x4 going front to back. My fear with this was there's still a smooth 6-inch gap basically from the bottom of the boat over there. And I was worried that if I put a bunch of pressure on the corner nearest the rubber rod holder there that comes on the boat, that deck might move. It might come up. And I wanted as much surface coverage as I could get that made sense. And I did it. And guys, it was a one-time build. I just built it. There's no plan. There's no, I made it as stout as I could, and I've had zero issues. It's never left the boat since I put it in. It's never moved. I don't know. I'm still happy with it, and I still don't care that the carpet doesn't match. Okay, you can see in this picture, I've removed that 2x4 that was going across the front. That step is giving me that initial oomph I want to feel when I step on the back of it, and it works. It works great. So, and here's basically a picture of it when I had painted everything that you're gonna see. I did paint somewhat the steps and the top deck just to kind of give it something other than just bare wood, and I'm not real worried about sealing it. This is a cheap project. If something happens, I can just build another one or just unscrew the top and put a fresh top on it. So spending money on sealant and stuff for something this cheap, I didn't see the need. Okay, the top left there, you see the 2x4 that goes all the way across. It goes above the step. You notice they're cut at an angle. It's about, it's around 45 degrees, if not less. It could be more like 30 degrees. And what that did was it gave me enough room to not have any obstruction when I slide the rod holder into that top hole. It's the only reason I beveled that edge. And again, by doing that, I got to extend the 2x4 just a little bit more across the 3/4 plywood, giving it just a little more rigidity on the back corner. Because if you're fishing and you're dealing with a fish over there, chances are that's where you're going to be. That's kind of my thinking and why I did what I did. There's a picture of the framing basically done before I put the top on it and add the steps. I wanted to test fit everything and then see how I wanted the step to work. Okay, you guys see this picture right here? This shows basically the angle that needs to be to go flush along the inside of your boat. That is a 2 foot by 4 foot 3/4 inch piece of plywood. It came that way from the hardware store. I assumed it was square, so I went with it. I did not cut anything off the edge going into the live well. All I did was get it laid out, and I basically got underneath it and took a pencil and created that angle and cut it off. What was left became the step. And I cut some of the width off of it because I only needed it that big. I didn't want to create any more obstruction in that little walking space that's there now. It's not nearly as big as it used to be. By doing this, you're going to sacrifice some space in the middle of your boat because there is a ton of room. But ultimately, most people with these boats are fishing on the bow, and the more range of motion you have on the bow, the better your experience is going to be, I promise. You can see the step. It has that shape to it, and it curves back in almost flush with the console as it comes down in the leg, basically where your legs go. And guys, that wasn't by design. That's just the shape of the piece I whacked off the other end of the 3/4 ply. So it worked out, and I carpeted it, and you never know. You don't need a whole lot of imagination. You need a tape measure, a pencil, a saw of some kind. Hopefully it's power, so you don't have to cut all this by hand. But I would literally go around your boat. I'd create the base. I'd create the vertical rise, and then I would put your piece of plywood on it. any kind of hinge doors or anything you want to add to the top of that, you have to be real cognitive of what's underneath. So you need to arrange your bracing accordingly, or you're going to drill into it or cut into it, or it's just going to be too many obstructions to put anything meaningful down in there. And that's why I kind of left it alone. It's a great storage area. It creates all that area underneath that is storage. So it's kind of a win-win. More area to walk around in and more storage. Of course, when I got done, I just didn't want to have bare wood to look at. I painted everything black, as you can see, and it turned out great. You know, design it, build it, do whatever you want with your casting deck, but just be mindful of, is this thing going to move around when you're driving? You hit a train track going 60 miles an hour, and your boat bounces up in the air and comes down hard. Is this thing going to come up in the air and smash your rods? These are things that I think you got to think about. That's the end of the casting deck discussion. The dimensions are there. The only thing you really need to be concerned about, I'm going to do it one more time, is your vertical so that you're flush. You want to create that vertical rise from a good solid base. 13 inches up from the floor, and then you put your 3/4 ply on all of your pieces, and you'll have it. And you want to support all that top stuff too, not just screw plywood to a bunch of tops of 2x4s. That's not going to work. Over time, that thing is just going to wobble and shift. And that's why you want to create a band around it and bring it together. So there you go. That's the casting deck in a nutshell. Now, one more question he had was about rod holders. So, like I said in my boat, I choked off the bottom rod holder. I still have 3. They work fine. My 4th bait caster I take with me. I put elsewhere. It's a 7.6. And guys, a 7.6 rod will fit in these rod holders. I don't believe they advertise it, but it will fit. Okay, so as you can see, just right of the steering console, you can see one of my rods going up the side of the boat. Now, it's not for everybody, but what I believe it does is it really keeps them out of the way. If you go to the other side of the boat and try to run something across that, your passenger risks putting his hands down on it, using it to get up off the seat with. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen. But there are many mounting options, whatever suits your taste. I just had these 2 bungees, and you can see them. One forward of the console. It's red and black behind my shoulder, and then you see the other one coming around the rod and going down behind, next to the seat, down the face of the step. What I did was I closed the end of one on the bungee of each end that I wanted not to go anywhere. And then it's just a latch, basically. I reach down. I usually put 5 rods over there and cinch them, and there's no stress on the rod. And you see the rod comes up along the console. There's a gap about yay big, and it's getting to the end of the rod, so things get smaller. So you're not putting any stress on the rod tips as it's coming up. And what I do is I take that other bungee and I pull it forward. I do a loop around, basically a loop around the rod, not the tips, but just back about 12 inches, a foot. And I reach over and I hook. That ends up hooking right near the live well door. And it's never failed me. I've never had an issue. I've driven this almost 20,000 miles on the trailer with rods and reels all over it, and I've had 0 issues, for the exception of the life jacket that flew out of that back hatch. That PSA for the day, guys, that storage hatch behind you, if you're driving down the freeway and it's full and stuff is in there moving around, it will push that hatch up and anything light is going down the freeway behind you. It happens. That's all I have to say about that. And remember, Sunday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time, Arizona time, 8 o'clock Midwest, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Be here. We'll be live. It's a good time. A lot of people are starting to come and do this, and it's turning into a party, honestly. But let's see how many of you guys want to show up. And remember, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you Sunday. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.